are you? We are Venom.
I got that venom, not knowing when I'm never gonna slow up and I'm ready to snap any momentum, thinking it's time to go.
Welcome back to another episode of, well, we're dusting it off, Big Spideas, the pun that brought me and Mike Thomas together in the first place. That's right, Mike Thomas, not Ben Phillips. Mike, how are you? Welcome back, Harlem's hero.
Hi, I'm doing well, obviously. You didn't ask, but I'm doing well. Those who
I
care,
did
I'm
say,
like, Matt.
how are you?
Did you?
I think
okay,
so. If I didn't, I apologise. You weren't
I was not listening at all.
Good. Solid start to our return to podcasting. Yeah, Big Spideas. There has been a Spider-Man related movie come out, and it's called Venom. And
wait, it's called Big Spideas? I thought it was called Great Spideas.
It's called Big Spideas.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's awkward because, I mean, we've already put out episodes with that title, so we cannot change it. But
it's really not called Great Spideas, huh?
Yeah, let the record show that Mike Thomas wanted it to be Great Spideas, but Big Spideas it is. Yes, Venom is out. It's the talk of the town for various reasons, and we figured we would get the band back together and do this. One of the many fine podcasts that you can find at entertherealworld.com, along with Countdown to Destruction, which is me and Ben Phillips talking about The Leftovers.
The smash HBO hit with literally dozens of viewers.
I think we have every viewer listening to the podcast, to be honest. So
all 12 of them.
Yeah. Depending on how quickly I edit this Venom episode, that will either be about to finish or will have just finished. So there's that. And coming after this, me and Mike's long-awaited podcast about The Matrix, The Sky Scorchers, which I will finally get around to actually editing, even though it was recorded weeks ago.
Months ago,
yeah. In the height of the heat wave. So we will get that out.
God, right.
But
we were just like grumpy. Remember that episode? We were just like, no, we're not recording today. We'll record tomorrow.
I was like,
awful.
I want to cancel, but he's going to be pissed at me, and then I cancelled, and you're like, oh, thank God. But we are here for Venom. I saw it mere hours ago.
Yeah, and I think it should be noted that we were not planning on seeing it, let alone discussing it.
Yeah.
And then MoviePass decided to work one weekend for me, and I went to go see it, and it was
You had suggested doing it because the reviews were hitting, and they were suggesting it was like truly heinous.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then I think you did see it with MoviePass, and you're like, that's fine. So
I was just that was, if anything, I say I'm most interested in the reaction. Have I read a single review? No, of course not.
No, why? Who reads?
I'm interested in the theoretical reaction, and the theoretical reaction seems to be very negative. And that's kind of surprising, because the movie is perfectly
I think the movie's kind of nothing. It's not bad. No, there's not really anyone here who's like giving a Razzie Award.
No one's embarrassing themselves.
No.
That's like the thing. Like, it seems like an exceptionally strong negative reaction. And I think there is I think that is interesting inherently.
I think because the market is saturated with these movies at the moment, and the turn is coming if it's not already here, and I think we just can't accept a lower standard anymore.
Yeah, doesn't really do it anymore. And it's like, but I think it's an important idea. I guess we're starting off with big thoughts first.
Well, it's Big Spideas.
Yeah, it's Big Spideas.
It's not called Small Spideas.
Like, this movie is perfectly Like, I described it to people as like, when you're on a plane and you need like 2 or 3 movies to watch, this is a perfectly good one. It's right, especially in that middle spot.
It's brisk. I realized
it doesn't feel long.
Yeah, I realized we were wrapping up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go then, final fight."
Yeah, it's like it's over. It doesn't, and even the runtime is a little deceptive. Apparently, the credits are like insanely long.
They are. I sat through them.
Because, like, when things are starting to wrap up, I'm like, is there, like, a second final showdown?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm still clearly sitting here for another half hour.
Nope.
And no, there wasn't. I guess
only
just
if you want to see that, like, 2-minute scene from Into the Spider-Verse, which I assume will be back for a 5th episode of Big Spideas,
for sure.
If it hasn't been renamed Great Spideas by then.
But I think it really gets to something important here, because, you and I think particularly with the first Deadpool, we're kind of like, okay, this is not like some amazing film. But the reaction to that film, both from fans and critics, was very positive, largely positive. And I think there became this narrative, which obviously is not really a quantifiable thing, and you kind of have to interpret it and try to do your best not to selectively cherry pick articles and reviews, etc. But there was this narrative that was like, whoa, this is so different than what you normally get. And in some ways, yes, but in larger ways, no. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, probably like Deadpool 2, which pretty much just copied Logan. And Logan were far more different than what you typically got in a superhero film in a lot of ways.
But not that same reaction.
No. I mean, Logan definitely got a stronger reaction, but not Deadpool 2.
I think Deadpool 1 kind of had that narrative behind it as well. Like, they released it on Valentine's Day, and it was like, it's an R-rated movie, and like, the more it started to break records, the more people then went to... It's like Black Panther. I think when that started to just crush every record, that just generated even more audience to go see it.
I mean, like, granted, like, Deadpool 1 is the first superhero movie where our main actor is getting pegged. So, like, definitely, it is not your typical superhero movie by every measure.
But then Deadpool 2 came out like weeks after Avengers and a few weeks before Ant-Man and the Wasp. It just kind of, it felt like another superhero movie. Even if I think objectively there's no argument it's a better film than Deadpool 1.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same wavelength there for sure. But I think, and I guess my larger point is that my bigger idea is...
Your bigger Spideas, please, Michael.
You really need to do something really different if your film is not going to be at a really higher level by the standards of superhero movies. Like, I basically agree with every single criticism. People who don't like the Marvel movies, I basically agree with everything they have, and I mostly just, like, don't care. It's like, I'm not going to pretend these films look cool. Like, the CGI is kind of crappy in a lot of ways. Like, they're overly reliant on quips to compensate for a lack of substance and things like that. But I mostly just enjoy the movies because they're really good at what they're trying to do.
I think they've got a lot of heart, most of them as well. And this has none of that.
I mean, this feels like I rewatched First Avenger and I rewatched Thor this summer, and I think those movies are largely pretty mediocre. But even them, I still have a soft spot for them in a way that I could not possibly have for this.
You compared this film with like early struggling to get off the ground MCU, and I think I get what you're saying, but I think again there's more heart there, there's more warmth compared to
pathos. Pathos.
Sure, I think this is really hollow. Like you said, it has to do something different, and it does nothing different. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's scary. I don't think the action is very sort of creative or innovative, and there's no heart, like I said. So it just feels like this skeleton of a movie, like a paint by numbers, assemble by committee. Here's how we do a superhero movie. And then they just didn't give it that thing. And it's weird because they hired a director who is known for style, you know, like Ruben Fleischer did Zombieland and stuff like that. And I was hoping it would be more in that vein. And I wonder have you seen Slither by James Gunn?
I have.
It should have been something like that, where it's like, it is a horror, and it is like violent and dark, but it is also just really funny.
Yeah.
And I was hoping for something like that, but it doesn't lean hard enough into any direction. And I think if it had just picked a lane, like, make a horror movie, make a comedy, make something.
Yeah.
But it tried to be all things for all people, and I think this is where the whole bumping it down from rated R to PG-13 to sort of go broad and go for the money, I think that's where it hurt it. Because I assume in the original cut, every animal in this film died, and all the humans died on screen, and there's more like Venom eating people and stuff like that. And it's easy cuts, like, you know, you see a rabbit with an alien inside it, and then you cut away and, I'm sure the rabbit is fine. Clearly, at some point, they blew that rabbit up. And just, it just makes it feel very safest version of this film, and I don't know, it takes away any edge it could have. And I don't like using terms like edge, because it sounds like I'm talking about, it's a dark script, it's going to be the Dark Knight of the blah, 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 but it doesn't have any flavour to it, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
It doesn't have its thing. Like, what's its thing? What is it doing well? Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it really...
Deadpool spoke to the camera and like made fun of other superhero movies and itself.
It was rated R. Like, it was clearly
Logan...
trying to be a comedy. Like, Logan was trying to be super fucking violent. And this just kind of felt... I mean, it felt like paint by numbers.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, like, I think it was like trying to... it was paint by numbers, and it was trying to present itself like it wasn't. How many times do you like? I mean, the whole marketing campaign was find your inner anti-hero. Like,
and like Tom Hardy.
What about him was an anti-hero? Like, how many henchmen has Captain America killed? Like, how many henchmen has Iron Man? Like, Venom biting people's heads off isn't making him an anti-hero. Make him an anti-hero. Let him actually eat the cops instead of having a really dumb line. we don't eat cops. Like,
well, you probably shouldn't eat, like, crooks either. Like,
yeah,
you
like,
probably shouldn't eat anyone. But Eddie Brock getting to decide who Venom gets to eat is a somewhat problematic character trait.
Oh, wow. I'm admiring the poster work on Countdown Destruction, episode 13. Excellently done.
Thank you.
With Justin Theroux's naked body. Anyway,
that's not Justin Theroux, but yes, carry on.
You could have even gone, like, pick something to say here, like, and you chose not even to say anything, and you said, like, the lowest common denominator. Like, what's next? Like, oh, don't eat the troops. Like what? Like, who are you catering to? Like, what's, like...
And then they slipped in the fake news line as well for the villain, which made my eyes roll pretty hard. Tom Hardy talked about how they cut his favourite stuff from the movie.
Oh, I'm tired of that excuse. I don't want to hear that excuse from a single actor anymore. I think that is that's when you, like, I get it, like, he knows he's made a shitty movie, and, like, that's his cover. But, like, I don't want to hear that.
I'm with you, but like, I mean, I feel I know exactly where that 40
where is the 40 minutes that makes this movie better?
Well, no, this is what I'm saying. Like, I feel it came from between. I think it's him and Venom, like, getting to know each other, as it were. Because while this movie's brisk, and I'm not going to complain that I'm out of a movie theater in 90 minutes instead of 4.5 hours, it kind of goes from Venom is like using him and, like, you know, you're my hostage, etc., to actually I kind of like you and your planet isn't that bad, and I guess I'll stay. Like, that happens really quick, and that whole scene with them, like, breaking into the office and etc. That felt like a very, hey, let's do some reshoots and make this film move a bit quicker. Let's just do this scene. And I assumed those 40 minutes were like Eddie and Venom, like, spending a day, like, eating people and being horrified and getting to know the limits of what can be done and all this shit, and like actually bonding, instead of just Venom just decides, hey, we both suck, let's be friends. So, like, I don't know, but I mean, I also feel that they desperately want Tom Holland to appear in their, like, little Spider-Verse, and I don't
if
know.
I was Marvel, I would drop it as, like, no.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing, but I'm not sure the degree to which they're allowed to. I think they're definitely not allowed to use him in a film that is rated R, and I think that's why they're doing this, so that they can get him, because they went back and forth about, oh, we're going to have him one day versus, oh, we're not allowed to, and then it became again, oh, he's absolutely going to appear in, like, Craven and stuff like that, and it's like, well, what are we doing here? And I don't know, this didn't feel like a confident, unique entity in a market that has a fuck ton of superheroes. And, like, I don't know about you, but the trailers before this for me were like Shazam, Aquaman, and Captain Marvel, and it's like, this is weaker looking than all four. I mean, who knows what those three movies are going to be like, but even with DC's track record, those two, Aquaman and Shazam, both look more unique.
Infinitely better than this.
Yeah, so I don't know, it just really does not compare. And, you know, they're going out of their way to, like, copy Marvel, and, like, they do the big in association with Marvel thing at the beginning. I know they always have
God,
those.
I laughed so hard.
Yeah, but, like, the direct in association, and, like, oh, here's our Stan Lee cameo, and here's our mid-credit scene and our end-credit scene. And Sony have always been like this. I feel you can see the studio interference on the screen, and I think X-Men has become like this more over time as well. This is what happened with the Amazing Spider-Man. It's like, you can see where they've been like, no, this is where we're going to.
There was a lot of Amazing Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah, like, we'll get into characters and stuff, I guess, in a bit, but, like, Anne going with him to the, like, rocket launch facility and,
I
like,
know.
helping
it was
out.
Like, straight out of Amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly, yeah. But Gwen is at least meant to be, like, a scientific genius and is of any use. Anne is a lawyer. I was like, what are you doing here?
But, like, at the same time, though, like, yeah, you can say that, like, Gwen Stacy theoretically had more, like, was more directly connected in her skill set and knowledge, but, like, she still did the exact same role Michelle Williams did, which was something, this token, like, save the day moment that was really meaningless. I mean, like, it's see-through. Like, you can pretend, like, oh man, he couldn't have done it without her, but yet, like, we have no idea who she is as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
The big thing, and it reminds me a lot of the Amazing Spider-Mans, is that these movies feel small in a meaningless way. And granted, like, I am the first person to say that almost all superheroes, except for the really biggest big ones, should avoid end-of-the-world ideas, because I think it's stupid, and it's played out, and it's impossible to suspend your disbelief for. You gotta do a better job than this. Yeah. And, like, listen, I appreciate turning Elon Musk into the villain of your film. A privatized Space Force sounds like a terrible idea. I hope it doesn't happen. But he's the third character in the movie, and he's not a character.
Yeah.
I mean, right away, it just seemed obvious when watching this, there was an easy fix in this movie, and they were never going to do it, of course. Like, you were talking about that the Eddie Brock journalist character was not the way to go. And, like, all he had to do was just, like, Venom gets in 3 people, and we see how it affects them differently.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe they unite, maybe 2 of them unite and 1 of them turns rogue, like something. Or maybe 2 of them turn, like something.
Yeah.
This was never going to work as just a solo picture. And the fact that no one involved in the process didn't recognize that is super telling.
Speaking of 2 points you've just made, there are kind of, like, the bones of some ideas you could have fleshed out and made better here, and one of them for me was Eddie is kind of a coward, and then the idea of Venom making him more confident. Like, that's something you could have pulled at, and yeah, like you pair that up with the idea that, you know, how Venom affects different people's personalities, and, you know, Eddie becomes more confident and stuff, and then this guy that, you know, he doesn't have to be cackling evil. He can be just kind of a, like, pretty ruthless businessman who has his mind in the right place. He suddenly becomes this, like, maniacal, like, no one, like, a fascist. Yeah. Like, you can do things like that, like, play with, but at the same time, personality stuff.
It predictably led to, like, the most cliche Marvel finish ever, which is...
Oh, awful final fight. Awful.
Ooh, he's matched up with his exact opposite, just like Iron Man 1, just like Iron Man 2, just like Black Panther, which was by far the worst part of Black Panther.
Yeah. Riot should have been a completely different colour. Like, it just looked like 2 Venoms mushing together.
But not even. Why does it have to be 2 Venoms? Like, it should not be 2 Venoms.
Or they could be
just
2
like it should have been 2 Black Panthers, and it should have been 2 Iron Men. Like, you do something else.
Sure, but I'm saying, like, you can have it be 2 symbiotes, but, like, not have them have the same look. Like, you could have a symbiote that's attached to, like, a creature.
It would have come out just like this. It just would have looked more clear what was happening.
Okay, well, Venom is nothing without other Venom creatures, so, I mean, that's a flaw of the character generally, but just to look at, I mean, you're right in that, but just looking at it, it literally was this. It's just 2 identical things mushing together, and, like, occasionally you're like, I think one of them's winning, and then, like, Eddie does, like, a Superman punch, and then gets stabbed, and then, he wins. It was, like, really uninspired, generally.
Come up with a villain who's like, ooh, instead of being the exact same thing, I'm going to try to come up with something that will exploit us. Like, I don't know, something better.
Welcome to Venom, and why you shouldn't make a Venom solo movie. Speaking of that, the treatment of Venom generally, like the character they've given Venom, it really bothered me that Venom is immediately talking in slang and saying things like, I'm kind of a loser, and stuff like, I know it's a pretty minor, like, whingy gripe, but it just struck me as pretty weird that, like, he's immediately talking like that, and when he's explaining his weaknesses and, like, a really shittily written, like, exposition scene, he uses, like, hurts as a unit of measurement, and it's like, wouldn't he have his own, like, way of explaining things? I don't know. I think they're wildly inconsistent with, like, the wants and desires and gripes and, like, knowledge set of the symbiotes generally, and not very well characterized.
The Venom part was not the character to me. It was like whatever is most convenient for the story in this particular moment.
Sure.
Like, it seemed super duper just thrown against the wall and just like, okay, what do we need them to be now? Okay, we like...
But that's what they're going for. They're going for this kind of, like, you know, by having, like, the head branch off and be like a little fucking talking snake, they're trying to do, like, a buddy cop type thing, and, like, inadvertently, they've created this, like, sexual undertone where Venom is clearly sexually and romantically interested in Eddie. And to have Venom not really be a real thing, it's just... Like you said, it's just a contextual convenience where, like, he needs to be super violent right now, so Venom's really violent, and now he's going to fix your, like, romantic ails and tell you exactly what you should say to Anne, and it's like, what is this? What's happening? And I wonder if they had more time of them, like, in dialogue with each other. Like, I assume those 40 minutes are, like, Tom Hardy talking to Tom Hardy. But anyway, yeah, I thought the symbiotes generally were really bad, and, like, you know, them taking Tencent's money, the Chinese, like, mega corporation Tencent, in order to set some of the film in Malaysia. And then you have Riot, who goes from, like, J. Jonah Jameson's son to a paramedic to some old lady to a little kid, who then boards a flight, flies her ass from Malaysia to, like, San Francisco, and, like, a homing beacon finds our villain of the movie because he's the only person that could get them to space. Like, it just seemed really weird that it seems like it has to move a lot, and for it to just sit patiently on a flight for 8 hours so it can go and find this dude, it's like, what? Like, I thought that was really contrived. Like, how it did that little journey, just so we can get the Chinese market when it comes to the box office and stuff.
Well, I mean, like, it was funny because, like, they did it so quickly that I almost didn't even, like, I forgot what you were talking about for a second. Like, they did not want us to think about this for too hard. Like, they're just like, cut, creepy girl, bad guy, accepts. Yeah. And I was like, whatever.
But
like,
the bit where it broke for me is that she sat on a fucking flight patiently. Right, and like, do these symbiotes understand flight? Do they understand, like, airports?
And also, do the people making this movie know how airlines work? An unintended child?
I know.
There are procedures in like place for such things. Like this is, and why was it a child? Like just to have that one creepy shot?
Just to have the trope of the horror child and all this sort of stuff.
That being said, it's not nearly as bad as you think.
I mean, like, I don't think Tom Hardy's bad. I was going into it, I was like, oh, Tom Hardy's going to be really bad. Like, they have him saying some pretty, like, heinous dialogue. Like, when he smashes through the window of the stoners, he's like, apparently I have a parasite. And it's like, like, stuff like that. But generally, he's fine. I don't think Eddie's journalism show would exist. Like, where he's, like, motorbiking to things to, like, say these cutting truths about the government, and he's, like, this kind of rock star journalist. But whatever, I'll let them have
He's a rock star YouTube journalist, basically. And you can see there's that scene in the trailer that's just as bad in the trailer. So there's like, well, excuse me, sir. Actually, it says right here that I was like, oh.
What about the murders, man? Huh?
Yeah. And they even could have gone with the idea that he was kind of like, they didn't really like go hard on he's an egomaniac part, right? Yeah. Like, sure, Anne calls him out that he's only acting for himself, but really that's not something.
Yeah, they give you one example.
Yeah, they make you think that his journalism stuff is completely on the level and like noble of him. Yeah. When it kind of comes across as
although he kind of completely abandons all of his journalism. Yeah, I know he washes out and he fails to get another job, but like when Jenny Slate comes to him and he's like completely like, oh, if I were you, I'd be afraid. You know, it's just like, so did you ever have these ideals, or are you just this guy? And they also didn't have the balls to do the thing of like, you know, he's a well-meaning guy who has unconscious toxic behaviors. She leaves him. She ends up with like a really nice guy. And then, like, they could have had a thing where he learns to be a better person and they form a genuine friendship and he learns to change. But instead, they do that cliche ending of, like, oh, actually, she's considering taking him back any moment.
Like,
now.
Why?
I know.
Why?
Like, the new boyfriend is just this nice guy who's, like, really understanding about Eddie and everything. And then they have to dangle this thing of, like... I was really hoping they were going to do a thing where they discuss the kiss and she's like, what are you talking about? I don't remember this. And it was all just Venom trying to get back inside Eddie or whatever. Like, I thought that would have been good, but no. They rob us of that. And it's like, she does the, oh, no, I didn't enjoy it. He type bullshit. Like, by the way, her saying, I'm really sorry about Venom... hilarious.
And like I think that kind of brings us quickly to like the cast issue, which is like if you go on the Wikipedia page now, the fourth name is Carlton Drake's henchman, which I feel like kind of says the issue. Like
the latest in a long run of aggressively bald henchmen who just have a torture fetish.
And like, granted, probably Jenny Slate should be in the fourth spot on this list, but like still,
what like, a criminal underuse of Jenny Slate, by the way. To just have her die off screen when she is such a tremendous talent. I was hoping she'd stick around and, like, you know, help Eddie figure out, like, oh, this is what's happening from a scientific point of view, and, like, maybe pivot over to... I mean, not every story needs a romance, but, you know, I just think, you know, having Jenny Slate have, like, however many lines and then just fuck off, it's like, okay, why did you go get Jenny Slate for this? I mean, I know she's not a huge star, but, I mean... still. And like Michelle Williams barely has a character.
She isn't a character. Like we can't pretend she's a character.
Okay, yeah, barely is generous. Yes, she doesn't have a character. Her and Tom Hardy have like negative chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, like, Michelle Williams has a ton of strengths as an actress. Like,
yeah.
I have no idea why they hired her for this role.
I don't know why they hired half these people. Like, I remember leading up to this when we were just incredibly negative and we saw this cast list and it's just like, I want better for all of these people. What are they doing?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like this thing's going to end up making money.
It was not the most expensive
no, and as I
superhero movie by any stretch.
China paid for like a third of it, so they spent like $60 million on it, and it's at $200 million and climbing, I think.
My hope is there's a sequel that's not really a Venom sequel. That it's like, or it's like kind of like Deadpool 2, where it's like a shadow like group movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know that's my solution for all these things. Basically, is to turn them all to
ensembles.
That's because most of these people aren't interesting as human beings.
No.
They're not interesting enough for a full 2-hour movie.
Well,
They're
I don't want
not.
to just follow one person. I want to see like a group dynamic and like tensions and conflicts and
They're just
having
not-
to work together. And that
They're
kind of stuff.
superheroes. They're literally the least interesting people on the planet. They can
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah.
So like you need that ensemble to make it far more palatable and enjoyable.
Well, lucky for you, there are like 5 Venom children,
Awesome.
including Carnage.
I mean, and another thing, I mean, like you definitely got to, but like Venom aesthetically is not very interesting as a character.
It's 90s as fuck, and setting so much of it at night time as well. It's like,
why?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
just all these directors are terrified of daylight. I feel.
I don't know why. I just don't know why. Like
Maybe it's
gotta be
easier
darker.
to do CGI at night. You know, you can hide the lighting issues. I don't fucking know.
In some ways, but also like if you look at like I always go back to the Lord of the Rings, like Gollum looked way better in the light than he did in the dark. It was always more glaringly obvious how fake he was because he was shining in the dark.
Yeah. He has his own light source.
Just look at this cast. There's no one in the cast.
I know. I was doing my prep work last night, and I was like, why are there only 5 names on this cast list?
Which was exactly the issue the Amazing Spider-Man movies had. Like, there was no people in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, where does the screen time even go?
I don't know.
Like,
and they cut 40 minutes.
Yeah, like, the second lead character isn't a character.
Yeah. And like, it moves so slowly, I think, at the beginning as well. Like, I don't know, I can't even say that. The sort of lack of any, like, flavour or character or gimmick is far more obvious before Venom shows up, I guess. And when it's just, here's Eddie Brock going about his Eddie Brock stuff. And it's just like, this is nothing, you're just wasting my time. You need more realised characters, and you need them to bounce off each other. And I need to care about Anne and Dora and Dan even, and all these people. Like, it's really just... I feel like they figured they could just shove Tom Hardy front and center and let him do his Tom Hardy thing, and it would carry it to like brilliance.
But like,
and he's
Tom
fine.
Hardy's good, but he's not that good.
I think I was having this discussion. I think the agreement was Tom Hardy is good for good directors, and otherwise pretty bad.
He's just not.
I don't think he's a
That
star.
good.
I think he's like an ensemble guy. Personally, I think he pairs well with another good actor, but like. If you're putting him in the middle and saying, "Hey, go be amazing," I don't think he is. But
Yeah, I mean, there are people who can pull that off. He's just not. He's not one of them.
again, it's just
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, it's mostly just because you can put it on, and I don't like. I didn't feel like my intelligence was insulted with this,
No,
and I didn't feel like.
I think
it wasn't
sometimes
like-
it was funny when it didn't mean to be, but
Yeah, but I mean, like, comedy is hard, so it's like I wasn't even blame them for that so much. Like, it was like a lot of their jokes fell flat. Okay, well,
Yeah.
a lot of jokes fall flat like 95% of the time in art.
But then I also think some of them fell flat because they didn't put enough focus on them. Like, I thought a line that could have been really funny is when he grabs Dan by the throat and he's like, "Oh God, I'm killing you, I'm so sorry." And I think if
Yeah.
they'd done a bit more of like Eddie being genuinely horrified at the rampant violence he's committing, I think that could have been funny. But it's turned into like a throwaway line that you can barely pick up because they're trying to make it just the generic bells and whistles, action, sci-fi, whatever.
But remember, it's really just
Yeah.
You'll watch it and you like it'll be fine. Like it just won't bother you. And you know the politics are mostly pretty good. San Francisco does have a terrible.
It does have a
problem
homelessness
that,
problem.
that they're not doing nearly enough about.
Yeah.
And
And
they
he
should be
befriends a
properly
homeless
shamed up.
lady, and he gives her
And
money that he doesn't
for some
need
reason, Tom Hardy can afford like one of the nicest apartments in all of San Francisco without a job.
And that's meant to be his like, oh, I'm down on my luck, like
and
living
he's
by
got,
myself.
He's got like the friend's apartment. He's got the friend's apartment,
and he's got like the
during his down on his luck
exposed brick
stage.
and all of that, and it's like, oh, we'll offset this by having him just live off like fucking chicken nuggets or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but look at his fucking apartment.
And like clearly, like they're going for the like this somewhat inverse like Peter Parker thing with him, like the down on the luck thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows you how good Sam Raimi is, given how much I hate so much of those movies, and just how he makes them work.
Well, they
like,
forced Venom on him, so
Yeah.
what does that
Well, I'm
tell
talking
you?
about those first 2 Spider-Man movies
Yeah, there you go.
work, despite how annoying almost every actor and character is. They offend my senses so much, but those movies are undeniably work.
Yeah,
because they feel like real movies.
They succeed in what they set out to do.
Yeah, in a way that Sony the last 3 times has just failed.
I don't know what they're setting out to do with this, and I don't know what they're setting out to do generally. I mean, I know, really, the pessimistic answer is make a fuck ton of money and copy Marvel's business model, but, like, from an artistic standpoint, if they even give a shit about that, it's like, what are you aiming for here? How are you being a unique voice in this space? And you're not. And I feel that that's what Sony does. I think it's just corporate executives trying to just replicate something that they don't understand. And
it's like hearing that, like, Amazon's looking for their Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, don't do shit like this.
That should work out.
Yeah. And like,
Go buy yourself a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm sure these sentences are said in boardrooms around the globe constantly. But every time anything like that gets out, I just roll my eyes so hard. And it's like, do your own thing. Make something good and people will like it.
Yeah, HBO didn't set out to make their Game of Thrones.
No,
like they just shot. They took a chance on a property. Like Christopher Nolan didn't set out to make his Dark Knight. Like.
And like, I mean, looking to the future of this, and I'm going to throw up in my mouth when I say it, the Venom verse. Like, they've got Tom Hardy contracted for 2 more films. They've got Woody Harrelson set up to play Carnage in the sequel. They're doing a Morbius movie with Jared Leto. Kraven is happening, and they're like promising Spider-Man will be in it. And like they keep threatening to.
Is Kraven like the Lion Hunter?
Yeah, he's like an African game hunter, and he's hunted everything, but he's found his ultimate prey in Spider-Man.
And so the idea is like Kraven is the protagonist and like Spider-Man's in the movie?
I guess. And like he tries to hunt Spider-Man, but then they team up to beat like, and even like the Lizard, I don't know, some shit like that. Like they keep talking about doing Silver and Black, which is a bad title for 2 okay heroes. They clearly want Tom Holland here, and they want to do a shared thing. But I think it's going to end up making a ton of money, and it's going to go onwards and upwards, unfortunately. But I just I wish failure upon Sony because they keep fucking up. And they're not learning. They're just doing what they did with Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, where they openly were like, oh, we're going to launch our big shared universe. And everyone was like, no, thank you. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then they retooled. And now they're like, okay, Homecoming was a hit. Let's try this again. And I don't think it's going to work this time either.
I think if they just straight up make Venom 2, it's going to fail hard.
Yeah.
And then they'll be in the exact same situation they were in 2014.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. If they see this as a success because it made money, they're in a lot of trouble.
Well, again, this is one of these episodes where we say up front, this is okay, and then we spend like 30 minutes shitting all over it, and then we have to come back to, but it's okay.
Well, almost the entire premise of the X-Men podcast was just like the negative reaction to Apocalypse is absurd. Now here is a 90-minute episode devoted to picking apart every mistake Apocalypse made as a movie.
One of them was giving away Wolverine. We did that. You can listen to that at entertherealworld.com and soundcloud.com/Mike and Matt.
And the great thing about the Real World podcast is that they're not ephemeral in any way. You can go back and listen to them all right now.
Yeah.
They're all still relevant.
Yeah, there you go. We are very timely. Me and Ben discussing The Leftovers, a show that ended last year.
It's all enduring stuff. Whenever you watch Firefly, you can just go back and listen to the Firefly podcast.
Unless you have any more thoughts on Venom, I propose we call it a day on Big Spideas until Enter the Spider-Verse.
Like, genuinely speaking, my first reaction was, I can't believe how much that's getting obliterated. It was But, like, there's also nothing there.
There's nothing. You will forget every plot point of this movie in, like, a month.
And there's really no sign of it getting better.
No.
And there's nothing even, like, with those Amazing Spider-Man movies, my line always was, I wish Raimi directed a Garfield Emma Stone movie.
Yeah. The one part of that is easy to defend is those two's chemistry and like the way they handle her death and all of that stuff. And
there's none of that here.
No.
There's nothing even close to the quality of Garfield and Stone's chemistry.
And like fucking Jeff Pinkner wrote this. He wrote Amazing Spider-Man 2, so like, you know, you're kind of doing a reboot of what wasn't working and you're bringing in one of the guys that contributed to it not working. I don't know. I feel they've learned nothing, and they basically just were like, "We'll just try this exact thing again." And I have just zero faith in the Sony creative team. And it stuns me that the same studio was bringing us what looks like an amazing animated movie with Miles Morales in December. But
we'll see. I'm keeping my expectations moderate for that one. Listen, it looks like it has something to say, and it looks unique, which will put it above this by far. It'll put it above a lot of superhero movies by far.
True.
I think it looks a little too cute for it. I think it's a little too high in its own self. Like, it reminds me actually of the first Lego movie, which was not nearly as clever as it thought it was.
No, and nowhere near as good as people said it was either. Anyway, that's for our Lego podcast that's coming next year.
Never.
That's absolutely fair. So this has been another episode of Big Spideas. Go to entertherealworld.com. Look out for the Sky Scorchers, where Mike and I will be discussing The Matrix 1, 2, 3, and the Animatrix. Then just keep looking out for more things. Bye, Mike, I guess. Yeah, bye.
Put a flame to a tar, walk around with a 5-round neck. Hey, mankind gotta deal with a new kind of mind. I'm a quick death